Okay, welcome to the Shaun Newman podcast. I'm very excited to have Larry Wintoneak sitting across from me. For those of you who don't know him, he's a two-time Royal Bank Cup winner as a player, Colonial Cup winner. In coaching, he had 822 Junior A games as a head coach, 120 pro games as a head coach, and now 174 as an assistant coach. The list of accolades that go along with those, I mean, you've been to the Dudley Hewitt Cup twice. You've been to the Royal Bank Finals twice. We can go on and on about your coaching career. It's been impressive to say the least. But I think I sit across from you as a guy in a line of many players who you really showed me things as a player that was it's hard to put into words, to be honest. I was talking with Jordan Chong on the way here, and we were talking about just the way you taught us about life and made us become men at a time when we needed to be taught stuff like that about competing and showing up and presenting ourselves the right way and being respectable to everyone. And you as a person, it's a real honor to sit across from you tonight.
Well, geez, that's a hell of an intro. Thank you very much. No, I don't know. I appreciate all the kind words, and we just came off a banquet here the other night, and there was a lot of good. We have a lot of good kids, and I guess the goal as a coach or your job is to make sure that you're teaching those life lessons. It's not always about winning and losing. I've always said that. And you learn that over the years, right? Because the fact that you still got to feed when you're a full-time coach, and that's your livelihood, you got to put food on the table for your family. And sometimes that winning comes to the forefront all the time, whether you like it or not. But I always thought that beyond that, it's more so it goes beyond more than winning and losing. Believe me, and if you can help somebody and make them a better person and make them a better player, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I probably written about you. I was saying before we got on here, I wrote about you in college, wrote a paper on big impactors in my life, and that finding my way out to Dryden, Ontario, and having you mentor me for 2 years, you've always been somebody that is ranked really high on my list. And so I was always curious where you learned your life lessons from and how your early life impacted where you went and how you went. So I thought maybe we'd go back to Port Arthur and we could start there and walk me back through that kind of thing and how you became Larry, the guy who you beat a team and you crack a beer open with your eyeball guy.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me about that one. Well, geez, again, thank you very much. I don't know. You want to take these life lessons that you learn. You go back and it's from your parents basically. And born and raised in Port Arthur, and we became Thunder Bay because Port Arthur, Fort William was two cities next door to each other, and we became Thunder Bay. And my mom and dad came over in a boat, and both hard workers, and nobody owed them nothing. They thought they owed Canada something, and so they worked, and my dad worked, and my mom worked, and they all had jobs, and multiple jobs. And it's funny because we just talk about it all the time. I have 2 jobs, sometimes 3 jobs. Well, I wonder why, because I know my dad, was a lineman, hurt his leg. I became a lineman, and kind of following that footsteps, and but he also had shoveled snow, raked grass, picked up garbage, washed windows. Very humble man, and just did whatever it take to put food on the table and to enable our family to do things the recreation way. And they never had a car, never wanted one, and so I knew how to walk, I knew how to run, and I could run a lot. I knew what transit was. Took the 50-seater or whatever you call it there. We took the bus all the time. And there's a lot of humbling experiences you learn, and those are the things that you learn a lot on how hard. I remember my dad was he loved baseball, but we would take the wagon and put the baseball equipment on the wagon and walk probably a mile and a half to practice, and have a great practice at the schoolyard, and then pack up and walk all the way home. And on the way home, there's a lot of these little corner stores, and we'd have our little ice cream, and we create memories. And my dad was not a very, very good communicator, never really talked too much, but he was more, action speaks louder than words sort of guy, and you learn a lot from that. And so, it's one of those things that you learn. I mean, when you're disciplined, there was a reason why you were disciplined, and you kind of knew what was right and what was wrong. And nowadays, if you ever did, what your parents, what my parents did to me would be, you'd be calling, social services, and, it's so wrong. But it's, like, I don't raise my kids, I didn't raise my kids like that because I knew it was right or wrong, whatever. I just knew that, if I did something wrong, I knew, like, he was either, the wooden spoon backhander or kneeling on rice for half an hour. Well, that was never too much fun, but boy, oh boy, did you knew what was right and what was wrong. There was no gray area. And I think that's how I still live this today. There's no gray area. Like, it's right or wrong, or that's how I played, that's how I coach, and that's how I live.
Yeah, that's we're out eating at BP's before this, folks, and I reach over to grab a toothpick, and I grab myself one and I put it in my mouth, and Larry looks at me and goes, Didn't you wear a letter for me? And I'm like, well, yeah. He's like, what teamwork did I ever teach you, right? Grabs me one, gives me a rib, right? That's just Larry. That's what you grew up with. Like, you pull together, right? You come together as one, and it's been a big lesson. I don't know. It's hard to put into words. Like, you come from a different time. Yeah,
and I'm still coaching, so I've adapted to change, and I'm willing to change. I want to learn all the time, and yeah. I'm pretty good at technology, where some guys of my age, just have given up on it, right? So I don't know. It's always intrigued me. My kids are always helpful, right? They're good to me in that aspect of if I need a question or some help in that area, they'll always help me out. So it's I don't know. I don't think of it. I don't think of it that way. I live one day at a time. Like, when you told me you're going to do this, like, geez, I had a lot of memories and a lot of, like a few, tears that were shed, and you're thinking about your parents, like why, like, why did they do that? Like, but I didn't know the difference. And what is it like? So that's what I like about it, is that's how it was, and I think it was awesome. Before you could go out, you'd have to go dig the garden. Like, you're digging some potatoes out, or you're taking up the corn, or you're picking peas, or you're pulling carrots and washing them, or you're shoveling coal into your basement before you head out. If you wanted to do something, if you wanted a bike, you had to earn it. Everything you did was you earned it. You earned the right. There was nothing given. So you didn't know that, and because of that, I always wanted like a car or some kind of transportation, because that's just the way everybody's doing it. And then I bought a motorcycle, and brand new, and I bought a brand new car, a 1977 Monte Carlo from Nipawin, Ontario, cash. And honest to God, I want to say it was $7,000 in my pocket, and I walked in there and prouder than a peacock, and counted out $7,000 to the guy. Like, it was a blue Landau 2-door. It was a beautiful car. Like, I just rode like a boat, and I just loved it. And I haven't had a new car since I tell the story here in Kindersley. I finally got a new truck here, and it's been that long. So. Sometimes you got to treat yourself. So I treat myself when I was young, and now I'm treating myself when I'm old.
Did you always love hockey? I've heard a couple different stories of you from back in the Thunder Bay days, that you weren't the most skilled player, but you worked your tail off, and your grit, your determination, and the way you bought into a team really made you stood out from the pack.
Well, I always thought that it's hard to. I couldn't skate with a lick. I worked, like where I played, like we didn't have the money, so we always went to the outdoor rink, and it was called Fitzgerald Rink, and it was about 6 blocks away from my house, so I'd walk there all the time. And it was cold those days, right? Like you go to the shack, warm up, go back out there, get the shit kicked out of you, or come home with, like you're playing with a real puck. If you play with a ball, well, you're a pussy. We didn't play with a tennis ball. You play with a real puck, and and if you wanted that puck, well, then you had to work for it, right? And if you didn't work for it, well, then you're not going to get it. And yeah, you'd get pushed around, and you'd get slashed, and you get whatever, and that's just it's pecking order, right? And that's where you earn respect. And there was 20, 25 kids on that ice, and a lot of them were 19, and some of them were 14, and some of them were 10, but we all played, and we all played for the right reason, not to go after that puck and try to score a goal. So you learn that, and I just love to compete. And I think, again, it was one of those things. Everything that I did was almost like I went to the store to buy milk and bread for my mom. Well, I would get her to time me. She would time me, so I'd run there and I'd run back, and we'd mark it down on her piece of paper that she used to keep in a drawer, and that's right where her smokes were. And it was a true story, but I remember one time she did that. She did it right on her cigarette carton there, and checking my time out, and oh, you're getting better, you're getting faster. So I don't know, is that where it came from? Probably, but you didn't know that back then, right?
Yeah. And so then, like, you grew up playing your minor hockey in Thunder Bay? Yeah. Were you playing, was it
outdoor hockey? Never had the money to play indoors. We just played outdoor. It was called rec.
Was there a different, was it cost more to play indoor?
Yeah. It was minor hockey then, just like now, right? Minor hockey.
Okay, yeah.
And you could play indoors, and the artificial ice. Well, it didn't matter. That wasn't going to happen for a few years until I made this one team. But in all honesty, the biggest thing in outdoor hockey and rec hockey was that it was called the Jamboree. So it was a 1-game shot, right? A 1-game winner takes all. So there was 8 or 9 different outdoor rinks in our community at that time. So we would play, and we'd be pitted against Brent Park or Carrick or Oliver Road, and there was the West End, as they called it, in Port Arthur, and we would play the Port Arthur teams. And so we were Fitzgerald Bruins, and we had the Boston Bruins uniform on, and I thought it was like Bobby Orr, Phil Esposito, like all the older guys, like Johnny Busick, the Chief. And so I always thought that was the greatest thing, putting that jersey on and going out there. And we actually won 1-0, and I scored the winning goal, and I didn't even know I scored the winning goal. It went off my head or something like that. And ever since then, you got some accolades. I got the winning goal, and oh my God, I was a hero, But But to my mom and dad, I was just there. It didn't matter to them. They, I didn't make my bed that day, or you know what I mean. It didn't matter. Like that didn't matter to them. It was you got to work. You're. So that was one of the things you learn. She would never let me leave. I always tell the story to the kids that I would never be able to leave the house until I made my bed. And I always what the hell? Why? Why am I doing this? And you don't get it until after. And I tell the story because when my mom passed away, and I would, a couple of times, you make your bed, and then who do you think of? Well, your mom. So I always tell that story. So I always make my bed every morning. It never fails. And I'll make it in the hotel. If we're on a road trip, my bed's made. And because why? Well, in that, 30, 40 seconds, a minute, whatever. Well, I think of my mom at that particular time. So those are values I think that, that'll stick with you for the rest of your life. And like to me, that's important, a little thing like that. But I always tell like guys that I work out with, I've got some good stories about that, about, if you don't work out, if you don't make your bed, you're not working out here, or you're not playing for me. And
what do they say to that?
Well, there's a little bit of obviously, tug of war type of thing. But I honest to God sent the kid home one day because he didn't make his bed, because I thought that I really thought that he was really dependent on his mom too much, and actually used her, which really bothered me. Just ran her show, and he was like 12 years old or 13 years old. I didn't understand that. So I made him, before he could come in, I used to make his bed, and I told his mom that, and sure enough, he started making his bed. And one day he pulls up, and I'm standing by the door, and his mom pulls up with his vehicle, and he's sitting there, and he looks in, and they drive away. And he comes back, and he goes, "Where were you?" He goes, "Oh, I had to go make my bed." So obviously, it was working. It was working. Absolutely. Why not? Isn't that a great story? Like, I think it's great.
It's fantastic. So you grow up playing in Port Arthur. Where along the lines do the Thunder Bay Twins come in then?
Well, boy, that's a...
And is the Thunder Bay Twins, is there a step before that? Because if there is, we could talk about that. But
yeah,
the Thunder Bay Twins back in the day must have been like playing for Montreal or Toronto or something, right? Like they kept winning Allan Cups, and they were kind of the Broad Street bullies of the time, right? You said yourself they were the toughest team out there, right?
Yeah, it was. We always took the bus. It was a Fort William Gardens at that time, and that had to have been at least, I don't know, 20 miles away, 15 miles away from my house. So me and my dad would go. My dad would get off work. We'd have a quick bite, or we'd go. We'd take the bus down to where the buses exchange, and we'd go into the pool hall and have a hot dog, and then hop on the main line, which was the one that transferred to the inner city, which was Fort William. So we'd go right there, get a transfer, hop on another bus. So it'd be like 3 transfers to get to this game. And my dad always, he used to work at the Port Arthur Arena taking tickets. And I didn't really know that because I was probably too young at that time. I didn't understand that, but that's one of his side jobs. And he loved hockey, but he never played it. Didn't understand it. Just wanted to be involved and work and make some money for the family. So anyway, we did that, and we used to go to these games, and I just, this is what I want to do. I want to do this. It was, at that time there was 5,000 people. Anywhere from 4,000 to 5,000 people at that rink every game. And we used to play the OHA teams, like the Barry, Don Cherry talks about a lot of those OHA guys, Well, those are the teams that used to come there for exhibition games against us, against that senior Twins team back in the 80s. And I always wanted to play there. So when I finished junior, I only played junior actually 1 year for Mental Mike. And I told you kind of a brief story about him. He was a beauty, but I learned a lot off him. I really did. He studied the Russian theory on training, on fitness, and on hockey. He was the Red Army. He was a very strict disciplinarian. He would, he would pick up pucks. He would never have a stick, and he had these scars in his face. We always wondered why, but his battery blew up in his face, and he's got these scars, and he looks like a Russian, bald head, but this ripped. I would say maybe 6% body fat. He would come in and have a whistle around his neck and these gloves, and then if we did something wrong, he'd pick up a puck and start firing at us. And I was hit a few times with the puck. And so anyway, I finally made the team. It was called the Blades, and made that team. And
is that Junior A then?
Yeah, it was Junior A. We played it Thunder Bay was a little different at that time. It was still Port Arthur, Fort William. And it was, I want to say there was 5 Junior A teams in our city, and very competitive. And usually the 2 best teams, the Port Arthur Mars and the Fort William Hurricanes. Then we had the Fort William Canadians, and then we had the Blades. So we were kind of like the lesser team, And you know, I don't even remember those. Honest to God, I don't remember those games at all. I was probably scared shitless, number one, and number two, I just, you know, like I said, I just wanted to try to get better. So I just worked at it all the time. And so after that, then I knew a couple of guys because I started working as a lineman, and I got some connections. A lot of the ex-pro guys would come back and get jobs with the city, and they would end up working with us. So they would end up playing with the senior team, because that's what they, you know, they would sign at January 10th type of thing, right? Because they were good players. Like
yeah, absolutely.
They would come from Europe, or, you know, some of the guys would you know, Gary Veneruzzo and Ralph Stewart were two guys that were very instrumental and great people, and helped me kind of find my way in that. And then next thing you know, like, I'm going to these camps, I'm going to the Twins trial, right? So, you know, it was a long time, Nui, and what happened was 7 years. The 7th year, I finally made it.
You tried out for a senior team for 7 years.
For 7 years, yeah, that's a true story. Like 7 years, I'd always get cut early, like sometimes in November.
How young were you when you first started trying out?
Well, right when I was 20, because I can vividly remember. I think it was 27 at that time, and 7 was always my lucky number. This is my 7th year, and everybody goes like, you're just being used by them. And a lot of times I did get through till like right to January 10th, but they would take me on the road, and then they would cut me. Like, they would take me on the road and we would play, and I didn't know why. I didn't care. A lot of the guys didn't want to go on the road, or they were married, or, you know, like, I'm not going on the road. We're going to St. Boniface. It's going to be a shit show, and I'll let Larry go. So that's how it all transpired. And
so for your 7 years then, Larry, you did play for them during the 7 years, but you were never signed after January 10th.
Never had a chance. So I would go back to, we would call it the commercial league, and our commercial league was good because we had a cup. We played, like, that was kind of like the American League team of the Thunder Bay Twins, because they would pick up a lot of guys from that. There was a lot of good hockey players in that. And some guys just thought it was too cliquey, and, you know, the Twins, you never get in there anyway, and, you know, like, whatever. And,
yeah.
But they were good. And they, you know, Gary Cook was the GM, and he was very crafty, and he knew how to, you know, he knew all the rules, and he was so smart. And he was another guy that I learned a lot of stuff from the GM side of it, you know, itineraries, meal plan, like meals and road trips, and, you know, all that stuff. You know, what I know today was, you know, because of him and how.
So while you're playing, you're a sponge and you're just soaking up everything.
Absolutely. Why? I mean, why not? Because I always vivided that. I always looked up, you know, like I was up in the stands, and I'd watch them play, and they won the Allan Cup, and I go, man, I want to be like, I just want a chance to be there. So every year I just keep trying out and keep working at it. And
so on the 7th year, you make it.
Yeah.
They keep you. Like, are you over the moon, or you?
Cried like a baby. Cried like a baby, and we all cried. Like Ralph Stewart, Billy McDonald. Billy Mack was the head coach then, and I just couldn't believe it. I could not believe they said it. And when I came out, all the guys were cheering, you know, like, pat me on the back and way to go, Larry. And it was one of the best days of my life for sure. Like, you know, at that particular time, you thought, man, this was unbelievable. So there's been a lot of ups and downs in that, but that, you know, again, it just tells you never give up, perseverance. You know, so many things could have happened and did happen.
Yeah.
But I would just never. I didn't know what no. I wouldn't give in. It just no was not good enough to me. I wanted to be in that team. So, you know, that's
a really cool story.
Yeah,
right? Like, of just, like, you know, being told no and not taking no for an answer, right?
Yeah.
And continuing to show up and put your best foot forward.
And I had you know, like, I just you know, got married, and, you know, starting a family, and, you know, like, there's a lot of things that you have to deal with at that particular time too, and you have to deal with your job too, right? Because, you know, and it was a weekend league. It was a weekend league. You'd always play in the weekends, but the way Cookie ran it was like pro, and he was a pro guy because he always ran it like Fergie, like John Ferguson Sr. You know, ran ran his teams, like in Winnipeg, because that's how that all started, that relationship, and they became friends, and Gary Cook and Fergie became friends, and and I think this is how it all happened. But it's those years were great years, and during that time, Shaun, what had happened was I also got involved with the junior team, with the Flyers, with Dave Siciliano. So Dave would let me come on the ice. It all started because I liked fitness, and Mental Mike back in the day would get me going, and I would go to the Confederation College and work out, and he'd show me the way, and man, I liked it. I loved it. I wanted more of it. I wanted to, so I really enjoyed training and all that part of it. And so Dave approached me one day and said, if you wanted to, you want to help out, you want to be a fitness guy there, and you can. So we used to run. They practiced in the Port Arthur Arena in training camp before they moved into the big rink. And I used to run a 5K every day. So we used to practice, I want to say around 7:38. It depended on which day.
Yeah.
But, sometimes we'd practice 6:37, right around that time anyway. And it would still be a little bit light out, but we would run 5K every day. And I know that a lot of the guys probably, I don't even know if guys are listening to this in Thunder Bay. If they do, great. But I remember those days that we ran there, and I'm sure some guys cheated and whatever, but I never cheated. I wanted to be the first guy all the time, right? So I was leading the pack, and there were some really good kids that ran with me. And
well, I got to send this back to Bill McDonald, because me and him chatted about you, and he said when we get done with this, make sure to send him the link, right? And so that's you're making me feel soft, right? Like I remember coming when I tried out for you the first time was in La Ronge. We were coaching there, and we were doing two-a-days then. And I remember the worst thing is my gear wouldn't dry, so you get like this rash that you just it was like needles driving into your legs, right? But out we go, and you couldn't stop, right? It's tryouts. We're doing 2-a-days, and but here you are running 5K like every day. Like I would have been in the fetal position probably back then.
Yeah,
you would have chewed me up and spit me out for lunch.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but that's the only way I knew it. I wasn't an expert. I wasn't studying it, or I wasn't going to take my education in it or nothing like that. I just did it. So it's kind of like I said to you before, all I knew was my dad worked, so I didn't know any different, right? Whether it be right or wrong, or just do it. And that's how you gain the respect, I think. And so Dave would then invite me on the ice. So then I really learned, because Dave was a disciple of Dave King, and he was in Hockey Canada. Dave was a very successful coach, and he was more the technology guy, the X's and O's, and very deliberate and very intelligent man. And Billy Mack was that hard nose, let's go get him, and if you're going to lose, we're going to show them who's boss in our rink, type of thing. But he would get the most out of us, a great motivator, and you'd go to the wall. You'd play for him like unbelievable. Like you'd go to the wall for that man. So with those two guys, and then Dave let me on the ice. Well, that's how I became a better skater, because I started to skate more, and that's how that 7th year became true. Because of all those, those 3 or 4 years leading up to it, practicing with the junior team and getting better, skating backwards and forwards. It was all important to me, and I didn't know that, right, until.
Yeah, well, I've actually been having conversations about how kids in small towns how small towns can have really good hockey players, essentially. And we were actually talking about Edam specifically. And I've been told that Edam leaves its rink unlocked during the day, but locks up, the kitchen and some areas that you don't want people in, but so that kids can go and skate all day long if they want to, right?
Yeah.
And then, me and you both know, you're just saying it again, right? And I keep hearing it over and over again, actually, as I do this podcast, is the more you're on the ice, the better you're going to get, right? The more you feel your blades and get to mess around with it and skate front and backwards, the better you get. And I was no different growing up as a kid. I was fortunate enough, Dad used to go flood the rink all the time by hand. They used to have natural ice in Hillmont. And while he was doing that, we were allowed to skate on any part of the ice that didn't have water on it. So you'd go tearing up the ice on the other side, and he'd slowly come and flood behind you, right? And actually, I was just talking to, I got Gord Redden on next week, and Bart and Wade said the same thing about when Gord would go down and do the same thing. They had keys to the rink, and they'd go skate, right? Well, by no means am I an NHLer, but I played enough hockey that being on the ice that much helps, and that's what you're talking about, right? Like, the more you're on, it leads to making you a better player, because hockey is, well, if you can't skate, you can't play.
Well, nowadays, it's so true. But I'll take it a step farther. Like, I know nowadays it's a lot different, but I just think when we played, we just played. Like, I know there was no structure. Sometimes there's too much structure here. Like, it's just go play. Like, just go do your own thing, and like, be yourself and go on the ice. And whether it be three kids or whatever, you don't need somebody there telling you what to do. Oh, skate backwards, or yelling and screaming and crossovers or. Well,
I know how much you love the Edmonton Oilers, and at times you can see that in their game. They don't know whether they're going or coming or.
Yeah, but it's so true, and that's a kudos to that community to leave the rink open like that. Like, sometimes here we have a problem. We have a problem if it's dead ice anyway. Let the kids skate.
Yeah, let the kids skate.
Like it doesn't make sense to me at times that they won't let guys just go on the ice. But as a junior coach now. A lot of guys will stay on the ice with you, right? And we'll just play around and shoot pucks and, just pass pucks. And
coming to Dryden did wonders for my game, because I was a decent hockey player.
Right.
I always wonder what you get a batch of us young guys coming to you, Larry, and you must have been licking your chops as we all walk through the door, right? And we start playing. But the cool thing was being on the ice every day makes you a better player, no doubt about it. But there was a 15 or 20 minutes before, depending on how early you wanted, and if you could talk the ice guy into letting you skate for a little while after, it was probably 15 to 20 minutes after. And I always tell the story, I had a milk carton, and I put it down inside the blue line, and I think it was Bryant Nichols at the time, and I'd pass across to him, and I had to sauce over the milk carton, or milk crate. And I put it at different spots, making it tougher and tougher, and changing the angles and the arcs of my saucer pass to him. Because I've always been the passer. I've always liked the first pass, and I was trying to work on the sauce pass. And I'm by no means the best sauce passer, but at that time, those extra little 15 minutes after every practice where a guy just liked shooting, and I just kept feeding him the puck over and over, and just changing the angles on where I had to put the puck. That makes you like those little things. Half the kids never get, because you need the ice time in order for that. And that was one thing that junior, right? If you showed up early to practice and you wanted to go out early, you could. And if you could convince the ice guy not to come flood the ice for 10 extra minutes, you could go shoot the puck. And those minutes add up. And those minutes, when they add up, create good things.
Absolutely. I mean, those are great habits, though. And then the ice guy that ran the rink in Dryden, where I stayed, that was his mom was my billet, so I always got some pull there. So that was Zilkins back in the day, and he was Spinner's neighbor there, so we'd always have a little insight there, if we can steal an extra. And a lot of times we timed it perfectly, because they would, it's almost noon, and all the guys, they don't want to flood the rink. It's lunchtime, right? So we timed it perfectly. So
that's a good point, because a lot of times we'd get done at noon, and nobody'd come, and you could skate for an hour.
Yeah. So we timed it properly, and we knew what we were doing, because that's free ice, right? Like, and the organization wasn't going to pay for it because we were already strapped for money, so that was enough. So that was kind of a strategy that we always used. And I mean, I look even at here, if we can get an extra half an hour, I'm taking it. And I'm sure every coach does the same thing. So it's just not us.
So you go back to the Twins. Let's go back here. You're playing for the Twins. So you get kept after January 10th. And that year you go on to win an Allan Cup. Is that correct?
Yeah. In '87 we won the Allan Cup.
Man, when is that like?
Oh, well, the first year, I never got a chance to really play very many games. Up to the lead up to the playoffs, I did, and it was unbelievable. But that fire was burning inside me, because that was the next step, right? Like I'm on the team, but I wasn't satisfied. I wanted to play. I always visualize. You know, you look at the NHL, and you know, when you're about to win the Stanley Cup and you're jumping over the boards, it's unbelievable. What a feeling that is, right? So it's a little empty feeling when you don't play, because you don't feel part of it. But our team was so good that the guys made you feel good about yourself, you know. So as soon as you come in the room, like, you're getting sprayed anyway, and it's unbelievable feeling, and the cigars are there and the party's there. And the bottom line is that, you know, unless I told the story, who knows how many games I played anyway. Like, but the ring is important. That's what you play for, and you play for each other. And you're, you know, a lot of good teammates there. And then the second year, because we won back-to-back, I got a chance to play more and contribute more. So it's almost like you fulfill your dream, you know. And then the third year we lost. We were trying for the three-peat, and actually it was called the Drive for Five. The other 2 years we won, but I didn't get a chance. I wasn't on the team.
Wasn't
at
on
that
the
time.
team.
No, so it was a Drive for Five, and we played it was in Charlottetown, and we ended up losing the Charlottetown Islanders at that time. They won the Allan Cup in PEI, and then
PEI had that good of a hockey team.
Oh yeah, they were good. Like they had some like, those guys were tough too. Like, you know how it is. Like, you know, like Thunder Bay, we thought we were tough, but some of those East Coast guys were tough too, and they were big. And they had a few NHL guys too, and really, like, man, oh man, we had some good tilts. And
you were talking off air that the 3-fight rule used to be still in back then, right?
Yep.
And so in these games, are you dusting off the knuckles often, or it kind of depended on the game, or that was just part of it?
Well, it was part of it. I think there was no, I mean, you have to be disciplined, obviously. You didn't want to take stupid penalties, but the biggest thing was that, you know, if there was a score to be settled, it was settled. And we policed the game, right? The referees didn't have to police the game. We policed ourselves. And I told you the story about warming up. Like, we used to warm up together. So we'd step on the ice and we warm up together. Like, not warm up, we'd skate around, and then we'd separate, and then the warm up would start. But a lot of times the score would get settled then. Like, you know, you'd have a few words with some guys. I know for a fact that I went up to a couple of guys and said, hey, you know, you touch him again, I'm gonna bust you. Yeah, well, you know, what are you gonna do, boss? Well, let's go right now. So we did. So we went.
And where are the refs in all this?
Well, the referees are having a smoke in the room, and they don't. You know, at that particular time, they're puffing on their dart, and they don't even know what's going on, right? Because nowadays that they got to be out there and watch everything. And if you know, geez, God Almighty, if your stick goes over the red line, you know, like it's so microscoped, everything's micromanaged, and it's, you know, like, whatever. But I just say, like, it was always good when we played because we policed ourselves. There was no idiots.
It brings up, and we were talking, well, I've told this story to my friends over and over and over again. I don't know how to bring it up other than I can just imagine you guys skating together. But Slapshot and Ogie Oglethorpe, who wasn't actually, it was based off a guy that you knew.
Bill Gothorpe, yep. Port Arthur boy. Geraldton, actually. I want to say it was Geraldton. Came to Thunder Bay and claimed the fame. And he dated my sister. And it was like where our high school is located, right across the street, was a psychiatric ward, a big one, the main one in Port Arthur. And then right across the street from that, so it was like a trifecta type of thing, and it was a district jail. So we had the toughest school, and nobody ever wanted to come near us. Or if you said, hey, we're from Lakeview or whatever, and they'd be going, oh my God, like, that's a crazy part of town. Like, you got the jail and you got... So anyway, Goldie that played for the Thunder Bay Vulcans, like, he was one tough cookie. And Willie Trognitz played there too, like two pretty good guys. And Billy McDonald played on that team. I want to say what they were called, the Port Arthur Mars at that particular time. And I think goalie got himself into trouble, and then he had to spend some time in jail. So Billy Mack's mom would make him a lunch, and then Bill would go to the jail and get him out of jail, give him the lunch, and then they go to practice. And at that particular time, Albert Cava Brick, and I'm pretty sure Ab's still up and running in Thunder Bay there, and Rory Cava's his son, and myself and the caveman were roommates on many occasions, and that could be for another podcast. But his dad coached there, and he was the only guy that could really control Billy Goldthorpe, and some really great stories like what happens in that dressing room. And I don't know, like a lot of times this is secondhand news or thirdhand news, but this is right from Bill Mack, and we used to sit down and have a few beers, because Billy was my, Billy coached me as my mentor. Everything that I've gotten out of hockey was because of him and Dave Siciliano. There's no doubt in my mind that those guys have put me where I am today, and I'm very grateful for it. So yeah, great stories. So I mean, if you want me to keep going to goalie now, so goalie. Okay, so let's just track back a bit. So here we are, like we lost the Allan Cup, and we would get 4,000, 5,000 people.
Yeah, like great fans.
It was unbelievable, and everybody used to smoke, and you can drink in there. It was crazy. We had a guy, Wally Pressinger. He went to the New York Ranger camp, one of the toughest men I know, and one of the nicest gentlemen I know. Like he was a hell of a guy. And I remember he worked at the elevators, because at that particular time we were a port, right? So I think there was about 12 or at least 8 to 12 elevators around on that Lake Superior port. So most of the guys worked there because it was great money. And someone bet Wally $100 to jump off the top of the elevator. Well, you know how big an elevator is.
Holy crap! And
he jumped off right into the slip. Well, the thing was he didn't surface because of all the sludge and everything. So everybody was worried, but that's how strong he was. He got out of that and came to the top and was looking for his money. He got $100 out of the deal.
No kidding.
So that was another good Wally story. But what had happened after we lost the Allan Cup? Gary Cook ended up. We went pro. So Thunder Bay went pro. Brantford Smoke. St. Thomas Wildcats, and we were called the we were Thunder Bay Thunderhawks the very first year, right? And we played at that particular time it was called the Colonial Hockey League. So Flint, Michigan was in it, Muskegon, Port Huron, there's I think it was a 6 or 8 team league. I'd have to go back and look, but anyway, that's what happened.
So when you go pro, are you getting paid now then?
Yeah.
Do you remember what you were making? Anything like that?
No, for me then, all they asked me to do is they said, "Well, Larry, I don't think you're going to make this team, but we want you to stick around, and we can, because you could fight 3 times still anyway." So it was a good thing for me. So I became like a player assistant with Billy Mack, because Billy Mack worked full time, I worked full time. So I made an agreement and became kind of like a player assistant.
So you're Reg Dunlopping.
Yeah,
player coaching, except not head coaching, assistant coaching.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And would play a few times, here and there, and Jacques Malott would come to town, and that's the guy. That's the guy I would have to take care of. But we had the toughest team. We had Bruce Ramsey, Vern Ray, we had Mel Engelstad that played on that team. Brian Wells played on that team. We had a good team. We ended up winning Game 7 at the Fort William Gardens in double overtime. Everton Blackman scored the winning goal.
This is for the Colonial Cup?
That was for the Colonial Cup, and man, what an event that was. So it was unbelievable to be involved in that. And then the following year,
wait a second. So you win the Colonial Cup in the Fort William Gardens.
Yep.
Which is, you're talking about hockey barns. That's a hockey rink, right?
Yeah, that's the ones you go into and you smell.
Yeah.
and you know it's a hockey rink. Like Flin Flon and Weyburn, like I told you before. Yeah. Those are the 3 rinks that I can honestly say, when you walk into the rink, you smell that it smells like tradition, rich tradition.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, I heard New Westminster back in the day was very, very similar. I mean, Estevan Bruin, like when I coached in the SJ there, Estevan, the old barn there, that was kind of like that too.
Yeah.
It was very, very similar to it. But that's the reminder. When you walk in a rink, you knew, ooh, this is a rink. This has got some history.
So you win in double overtime. Like, can you even get out of the rink? 4,000 fans trying to get down to you, or did they come down, or what?
We didn't leave. Actually, I think we left maybe at 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
The curling club was open, and they had a beer gardens there. So obviously, we went into the beer gardens and celebrated there for all hours of the night. Went back to the dressing room, and just it was an all nighter. There's no doubt about it. It was, you know, I still have my ring, and like I said, it was when you win. You know, it was three wins or 3 championships in 4 years. You know, it's like they when the Oilers won the heydays, the Islanders won their heydays. When you win one, you want another one. And when you win 2, you get greedy. And that's a good greed. So we became a juggernaut not only in the Allan Cup, but also in that United League. And then I can tell you this, so then Winnipeg, so the Ottawa Senators became a franchise in the National Hockey League. Well, Fergie was part of that group, right? So Fergie was part of the group. So he said to Cookie, you're going to be the Thunder Bay Senators, and you're going to be our second affiliation. The Charlottetown Islanders became the American Hockey League team. So that was my first really gig at going, my God, this is... And I think it was Saxton was the owner, if I can remember. Do you remember that name? Anyway, you'd have to Google it. Or...
So are you still playing at this time, or you're strictly coaching?
This is coaching now, but I still went out in the ice and everything and played around. I mean, Mac asked me, a couple of times if I had to go out and do some dirty work or whatever. I'd do it, absolutely, And, the guy that I always had to usually fight was that Jacques Malott. And, but, because of, the French, we could get under his skin because we call him Jack. Hey, Jack. Hey, Jack. And he just flip a lip. The name is Jack. My name is Jack Malott. And he was a stud. And, we used to, it didn't matter after the game. We'd go to the same bar. Well, he would come in with a fur coat. And he had 2 hookers on his both arms one night. And I was so mad at him one night. He was, he was acting up. So I was going to fight him. I was going to fight him right in the bar. And we've had some good tilts in even, off ice in the bar. But the guys kind of, it was getting goofy because I was ready with my bottle, and I don't know if you know that story, but anyway, it wasn't a very good story. It's just one of those things that happened. But in all honesty, Shaun, what had happened is, we became the Thunder Bay Senators. We moved to day practices. Very difficult now for me to get off work. Billy Mack ended up being the head coach, but man, there's some great stories when I was his assistant, and he a few times had to work because he couldn't get off, so I had the team down in the States, and I'm a young guy, and man, we had a lot of fun. And one very good story was Brian Wells was a pretty good player. And his brother was the assistant coach in the Western Hockey League for the Brandon Wheat Kings, because they're from Brandon, and his dad's they're actually from Regina. And Wellesley got cut from Team Canada, World Juniors at that particular time, and he was a tough guy, but he played for the Pats, and so we ended up getting him, and he was a kook show, but I loved him. And I trained with those guys. We used to do step ups in the dressing room. That was our fitness. I would go at night. And Billy Mack would say, stay with these guys, you do some fitness. So I do push-ups, in the dressing room, the stall. We had no stalls. It was just a bench. So we do step-ups. So we do step-ups, jump up and down, and we would try to get ourselves into better shape. Cam Plant played on that team. Still, I want to say he's still the all-time leading assist a defenseman for the Western Hockey League, 118, because he played with Ray Ferraro at that particular time.
Yeah.
So Cam was in Europe, came over, Cookie signed him. Man, we had a good team. We ended up winning that year. And, we're still friends to this day. Cam, he had 2 boys that got drafted in the National Hockey League. But Wellesley, anyway, I remember we were in Detroit. They played in the Detroit Falcons. And this is the facility that they played out of was where the Detroit Red Wings used to practice all the time. So we used to kind of, go in the side door and they would practice, and you get to see Probert and Kosher and Iserman and all those guys that that played. They're your idols, like your guys you see on TV, or oh my God. So we thought we were the shit, because we're playing, hey,
you're playing pro.
Look at us, So anyway, it was good. And so when it was a scrum or something in front of our bench, and then this guy started yelling, and I mean just like going off, and he was Russian. And referees are looking, and this guy's holding his hand and he's holding his arm. I thought, oh, maybe he separated his shoulder or something like that. And Wellesley comes over, he goes, he won't be doing that anymore. I go, what do you mean? I just bit his finger off, and he spit it right into our bench. And he's got the tip of the guy's finger in his mouth, and he spit it off. 10-game suspension for that one, but no big deal.
What do you think they give him now for that?
Well, that's
lifetime ban.
Oh yeah. Well, if you Google his name, or if you look at him, he was suspended the most. But there's a really good video on him when he took a stick, he just started tomahawking everybody in the bench on the opposition. Everybody just hit the deck. The coaches hit the deck. Everybody just kind of whoa, look out. Like Billy Mack, they claim to fame in that. Brucey Brudo coached Muskegon, and Billy Mack and him were going to go at it under the tunnel the one time. Oh my God, it was the best. It was like this. Those are stories that you don't make those up. That's a true story. Like those guys were, were so intense, and our games were so intense, and we had some really good hockey. There were some really good hockey players because we were the third affiliate, so we had a lot of good young guys that played, and our goaltending was always great. But because of the fact that they moved everything to the daytime, I couldn't do it, so I ended up going back to the junior. I went to start to sniff around the junior team again, and that's kind of how that type of coaching started. With Billy Mack being the assistant there, and then going with Dave Siciliano and being kind of the video guy, and then starting hanging around with him. And then actually I got the head coaching job midway through that season in '95 with the Flyers. And then we ended up winning the Dudley Hewitt Cup that year, and losing out to Calgary Canucks in the Royal Bank Cup. It was in Gloucester, Ottawa. The Centennial Cup at that time it was called, right? Not the Royal Bank Cup. It was still called the Centennial Cup. So in '95, I left the Senators, and then the Senators actually folded, and it became the Thunderbird Thundercats. So the pro team lasted, I think, 7 years, and won 4 or 5 championships there. And then I went to the junior team, and then just kept, just hung out there for 2 years, and then next thing I got a call.
Yeah, and you just kind of glaze over, but you ended up going to a Royal Bank Cup or Centennial Cup.
Yeah.
So you just walked on a team, and you guys were that good?
We had a good team. At that particular time, we were in the USHL, correct? Thunder Bay was in the USHL.
Okay.
So we would have, I would say no less than 8 scholarships, 10 scholarships to all the D1 schools like Miami of Ohio, Minnesota, Duluth, at North Dakota. We had the Hoogstein brothers. They both played for, Ryan Brindley played, Schutte played, Todd Jones played. All these kids that played, Bragnello played, all D1 schools, and I had, I was fortunate enough to be in the right place in the right time, and man, we had a lot of fun. Cup, it was some really good players that that ended up winning. We won. We ended up winning the league, and then we played. So what happens is you play in the USHL. We lost to Sioux City, and then we still got to compete for the Canadian national team. So they would have the Dudley Hewitt Cup, as you all.
Yeah. When the Dudley Hewitt Cup, for people that don't know, is the Ontario championship to see you win that. You move on to the national championship.
Yeah, like our, it's like our Anavet Cup.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
there's more than 2 teams, because of, it used to be, well, Quebec had a team, right?
Yeah.
Central Ontario, Northern Ontario, and then Thunder Bay, and then you get the East. The East would play the Central, like Pembroke usually always ended up winning out, and they would come. They would come to the.
And sorry, you may have said it. Where was the Centennial Cup that year you won?
Gloucester in Ottawa.
In Ottawa.
Yeah, right next to Hull, Quebec. So we had some fun there, to say the least. Well, you know what I mean, eh? It was some really good hockey, and like I said, I'm just very fortunate. There's guys there that helped me along the way, and I could never do it without. And I'll never forget them for the rest of my life, because they're.
So 95, you're in. You go to Centennial Cup.
Yep.
And then 96, you're out in Flin Flon.
Yep.
You know what I love about Flin Flon is they didn't win Game 7. But if you haven't seen the video of, you can go on Twitter. I retweeted it, I think, or I talked about it. Because they have a video of them leaving Flin Flon where all the fans are parked all alongside the highway going for Game 7. This is round 2?
Yep.
Right? Like
yep,
Game 7.
They're going to Battleford, yep.
And the fans are just going nuts. What was coaching that like?
Again, it's you walk in that rink and you just know that you're in a hockey rink, and you look at the pictures and you're reminded right away where you're coming from. And everybody asked me, I know this one fella, his name is Beastie. That was his Guy Rideout. That was his name. He was a rink guy, and first thing he asked me was, "Who's my tough guy?" Flin Flon is notoriously known for some pretty tough teams. And Patty Janelle coached that team, so I didn't really realize it. I mean, I knew about it in 96. I went there in November, and Blaine Sautner was already there. Like, Blaine is from Flaxcombe, and that's another good story too, because Ashton's his son. I train Ashton now, so Blaine and myself and his wife Kim, we go a long way. Like, she taught a school there. Blaine was my assistant coach, and he also was a teacher there. And man, oh man, and Harlan and Fran, that's their parent. That's Ashton's grandma, and they're just great people. So it's so funny how that works. Now I'm training him here in Hardcore Fitness in Kindersley, and he's in the National Hockey League, and here I am again, like, just I don't have any I don't have 3 letters behind my name. I don't have anything behind my name. I just use common sense and just, let's go to town here, let's work hard, and I got some good exercises. And you talk to those guys you talk to a few of the fitness guys in Vancouver, and next thing you know, like Roger Takahaski, I'm emailing him, we're talking back and forth, he's giving me programs, giving me ideas, and next thing you know, it's just so weird how it works, right? And they trust me with them, and I'm just, again, very fortunate to be involved in that. And but Flin Flon really kind of helped me. That was kind of the stepping stone. And you want to know about the history? Well, in 57 they won a Memorial Cup. So in 2007 they had a 50-year anniversary, and that is where it all hit right there, because they had, that rink was, well, I would have to say there's 2,500 people, maybe more, at this dinner. And at that particular time, 97, excuse me, not 2007. So 97, they had this, they had that event, and then Jerry Hart, Bobby Clark, all those guys came back. Teddy Hampson.
Right, because Bobby Clark played for the Flin Flon Bombers once
Yeah.
upon a time.
Yeah, I got some great pictures of myself and Bob in the dressing room smoking a cigar. Jerry Hart was another man that, and Cal Hammond were two gentlemen. Like Cal was kind of like he was the goofball. He was with the he was the goalie that back then for that team, for Clark's team, and him and Heather really helped me out. Got me settled at that particular time. It was some really good times with those people, and we've kept in touch ever since. And Jerry's let me stay at his cabin with my kids there, and it's just a beautiful setting in the summertime. But that's all because of Flin Flon and what you do. And I realized how much history and tradition there was, and of course I'll just chew that up, and I'm not going to let that go. And we've had some good stories about that coming home from if we lost 4 games or whatever, I would line the guys up, and we'd get off the bus, and we're going to have a little bag skate before they go home to their billets, which you probably can never do anymore. And every time they stopped, they had to face the retired sweaters, because in my opinion, we didn't live up to our standard. We embarrassed the Bomber jersey. And whether you say it's right or wrong, a lot of guys probably didn't like that. But I think today still they'll tell you that story, and it really wasn't about the punishment. It was about the history and how important it is to wear a Bomber jersey. So I probably did it the wrong way, but at that particular time I thought it was the right way. So you live and die by the sword, right? And that's just the way it goes. And
talking about tradition and history, what's the story behind the moose leg?
Well, the moose leg came out. I can't remember what year it was, but it was part of that. Every time you win a game, someone would throw the big moose leg on the ice.
Yeah.
And so we would take that moose leg and put it in the center ice, and then we would salute the fans, right? Tap the sticks 3 times, and that's something I always thought that was important. We did it in Thunder Bay, and I wanted to bring it in Flin Flon too. And I don't know if they did it prior or not. I'm not sure, but I know that stuck. And everybody does it now, right? But that was one of the things that we did that a lot of teams didn't like, because they thought it was we were bugging them, and probably our guys were chirping them. Obviously, it's hockey, right? But we were saluting our fans, and we appreciated that moose leg. So, as you well aware, I think it was a couple of years ago, someone from Weyburn.
I saw that Weyburn took it, and it was a rodeo.
It was ugly.
You just YouTube that.
Yeah.
YouTube the video of Weyburn trying to get off the ice with the moose leg.
Yeah, and that doesn't work. So you understand that history, and I always remember that there were some tough games. Like I remember Bob B come up there with Humboldt, and it was really cold that weekend, and we beat him and whatever. And Bob, their players are acting goofy or whatever, and so Bob goes out to the bus, and they're not moving. Oh, why not? Well, the fans spray painted the windshield black. Spray painted black. Can't get it off. Can't drive. You're staying overnight, boys. So there was a lot of stuff that went on like that. A lot of gamesmanship.
Yeah.
That were, that was home ice advantage. And we had a couple of kids from Fort St. John, and there was a sign up in the rafters: "Welcome to the zoo. Don't feed the animals." Wayne Cartouche at that time was the president of the league. Didn't really appreciate that, but we weren't taking that down because it was a big sign. Yeah. It was and we were tough. And Nathan Waberski, and at that particular time, 316, Steve Austin. Well, It was 316 Waberski. And man, oh man, we had some good teams in those years. And the year that we hosted the Royal Bank Cup,
that would have been 2001.
Yeah,
correct?
2001. We had a hell of a team. Nipawin beat us in the semifinals. They upset us. Actually, they had a good team too. We just didn't play up to to our standards. But we had some really good players, and Todd Horning played for us. And I told Danielle the other day that Todd Horning, I want to say he was a third-round pick of the Washington Capitals, won a Memorial Cup in Portland with Hossa, and we had him for the Royal Bank Cup for his 20-year-old year.
Wow.
He was a horse. He was a stud. Fight, everything. And so this year we listed his boy, and now he was skating with us there in Kindersley. And
oh, really?
So that's how far this has come. Like it's so Todd Horning one time, and now his son.
No, his son.
Now is skating with us. So it's pretty cool. It really is. It's something that I would never. Yeah,
man, that town must have been on fire, like a buzz with when a Royal Bank, the national championship, goes to Flin Flon, which is what, a town of
5,000.
5,000 people.
5,000 mining community, Hudson Bay mining and smelting.
Right, like it's
surrounding area. You probably have 8 because there's Snow Lake, but there's like you're 6 hours from Saskatoon, 4 to P.
That's unreal.
4 to PA, so you are isolated up there, and you have to have a special. You need a special breed of. Of a player to go up there, and it was good. We a lot of these guys have married guys. Like actually Todd married a girl from Flin Flon too. Yeah, so it does show you that there is a lot of connections there, and it goes back to your roots, how much history. And Mike Reagan, who I coached for 4 years there, is still coaching there. All right, so I coached Mike for 4. He ended up going to Sacred Heart for a full scholarship, and he always lets me in the room when we go up there, and he's done a magnificent job of keeping that tradition going, and just their dressing room, and just to go back when we had that 2007, what had happened was we were planning on doing a refurbish of the room, and so the alumni actually, I can't remember how much money we raised, but we raised enough to build a new dressing room.
Okay.
So that was the cool part of it, and of course then we got a chance to host the Royal Bank Cup, and we beat Weyburn in Game 5 and in the semifinals 4-0, and we were playing Camrose the next day, and I remember Mac, Dwight McMillan. There's no way he was gonna he wasn't leaving the ice without trying to stir the pot or getting us suspended. And I'm yelling, I go, you can't fight, and we're getting mauled and we're getting slashed and cross-checked, and it's everything we can not to retaliate back. And the referees are doing a good job, and they actually, they tossed a few guys out, and they finally tossed Mac out. So true story. So Mac goes off the ice, and he's walking off the ice, and he salutes the fan with both his fingers. Some guy throws a full Coke can, nails him in the head, and knocks him down. Knocked old Mac down on the ice to one knee. It was amazing. And the fans, that was the loudest I've ever heard the Whitney Forum at that particular time. It was 2,300 people there.
Yeah.
It was loud. And the game was on TSN, and we got there about, I want to say 11 o'clock or something like that. I think the game was won because he had the TV stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
So it was very similar to what you just said. The fans would line up. There was about 1,000 fans there, and the best part about it, they used to have the beer garden was called the Bomb Shelter. Full.
Fantastic name.
It was unbelievable. So we had 2,300 there, and another 800-900 inside that curling club in the bomb shelter, and the TV set up. It was unbelievable. So when you walk down that path to your dressing room, you can just hear it. You could hear the fans, go Bombers, go Bombers, go, and the horns and everything. And that was 2 hours before the game, and it was just so electric. And unfortunately, we lost to Camrose, and they had a good team that year too, and we had some really good chances in the first period, and we didn't bury, and that was the difference, and they ended up beating us. So great experience, and I would never ever give up a day of that for sure, because it made me a better, not only made me a better coach, made me a better person for sure.
Yeah. All right, we took a quick little break there to catch our wind, but we're back now.
Your ninth beer.
That's right. We didn't want to crack them on there, so
respect.
That's right.
Exactly. So you're learning here.
That's right. We left off at the Flim Flom Bombers, but while we were off air, I had to show Larry. So the 2 years, we're gonna hop to when I was playing for Larry out in Dryden. We were just looking at. It was my first season playing for Larry. We're in Fort Francis, playing Borderland Thunder, and I just pulled up on YouTube. There's still footage of it. It's pretty poor, but you get the picture. We had a bench clearing brawl, and I was talking about it with Chong on the way here, and his favorite memory is you tomahawking a stick at Dave Allison in the other bench, right? And if you watch the video, it is absolute mayhem. There's 20 guys fighting 20 guys. The coaches are fighting. The trainers are fighting. Heck, the fans are coming out. Like, it's absolute mayhem.
Well, yeah, Jamie Davis's dad actually came on the ice trying to protect his kid there. That was kind of ugly. And I think Dave to this day still thinks it's our fault. But, you know, if you really look at the video, we didn't have the last change. He puts his slugs out there, and I knew right away, oh boy, we're gonna be in trouble here. So that's when I turned, and after it all started, and I just kind of harpooned that stick at him, and then. But it was far enough away, like, you know, the benches weren't right next to each other. It was a pretty good toss, and then he came over and started chirping me or whatever, and he got close enough, and then we went at her.
And then the fireworks kicked off.
Yeah, and I thought I know that you know Hot Carl, as we call him, like he got a couple of good shots in, and I know I got a couple of good shots in, because the next game, when it was all said and done, no matter which way you look at it, and I tell this story all the time, like I don't know, 5-6 real good shots on Allison, and then what had happened was, like, he was a big guy. Like, you remember, he was in a National Hockey League. Like, he played. Like, played in many years, and he was heck, he had a little stint with the Senators. You know, and that's the kind of you remember, like, we were talking about the Thunder Bay Senators. Well, guess what? You know, so he was part of that group. Anyway, he was a bigger guy there, and we kind of I was in between the boards and the bench, and we just kind of toppled over, and he toppled on top of me. And I thought, oh boy. And he was just leaking, and he goes, I'm going to fucking kill you. And so I have a straight arm, my left arm's out, and I'm hoping he's trying to punch me, and I'm holding him back, and he's just leaking all over me. Like, there's blood coming off his nose, because I think either myself or Kevo busted his nose up. And he won't admit this, of course. You know, Dave will always say, I beat the shit out of you, but he didn't. The only way he beat me was after that, he took the medical kit, which was metal, and hit me in the head with it a couple of times. And then, thank God, Spinner came down from the stands, and probably the third time he was going to hit me, Dell grabbed it from him, and that was it, and he got off of me. But man, that was I've never had fear like that before. Like, it took everything for me to hold him off, because I was on the bottom, and he had to been about 240, 250. And one thing about Dave too, he was always a character guy. Like, he was a character guy, no doubt. Like, we always got along. Like, he'd always invite me to his room and have a shot of whiskey before the game. Like, it was kind of like, you know, Jerry James and Dwight McMillan before games would, you know, line things up before the game would start between Weyburn and Estevan, right? Always. Or they'd have a shot of whiskey and say, okay, well, you know, who's starting here? It was very similar to that, but it was ugly. I mean, let's be, you know, like, it wasn't the greatest thing, but it sure did. I think it really, you know, bonded our team together, and whether we win or lose, it was something that we stuck up for each other, and stuck up. We weren't embarrassed, that's for sure.
No, we had the toughest coach in the bloody league, right? Like,
I don't know about that, but
I saw it firsthand. Like, that is a story I will never forget. And Dryden had their alumni game when they hosted the Dudley Hewitt here this past year, and I got sitting around with a couple of guys that were part of that game, and it's almost like surreal to talk about it, right? Like, you did what? Okay, sure, yeah, whatever. But then you pull up the old footage of the YouTube video of it, right? And you want something to look at. It isn't great quality, but search Fort Francis or Borderland Thunder brawl with Dryden Ice Dogs, something along that lines, or Fort Francis brawl with Dryden Ice Dogs, and you'll see it. It is like straight out of some movie from the, like, it's pretty much Slapshot, right? Like, that's what it was, and that happened early 2000s. Like, it was.
I think we got 2 games for that. So not bad. And I remember because we went back, we had to play the next night, right? In Dryden, and so we were both suspended, and Dave walked in with sunglasses and a hat on. You know, yeah, it was pretty funny. So, and I was the same guy. I just had a welt in the back, like on the top of my head, because from the. I think I got about 4 or 5, I want to say. I
don't think I'm speaking out of turn here, Larry. When I tell the best part about the entire story is getting back on the bus, right? We get back on the bus, and all of us are sheepish. We've just been through a bench clearing brawl. We're sitting there going like, I don't know. I don't know what's about to happen. And Larry gets on. He's bleeding from everywhere. He's got an ice pack on his head. And he goes, "Boys, that's old-time hockey." And he's all like, jacked up, and he's just like pumped, and we're all like, all right, yeah, right? Like, I think we beat him the next game, to be completely honest.
Yeah, we did beat him the next game, then we lost the last game. But yeah, it was like I said, those are things. How can you get anybody heck for that? Like, we stuck together, and that's what any coach would want that for their player. And you know, it's out of fear too, right? For a lot of those young guys that, you know, like, you know, Davis, like he took a beat. Yeah. You know, he's not no fighter, that's for sure. And then of course they're tough guys beating on him, like he's, you know, so, you know, it's one of those things that happen, and it's another great story, another great memory that we've created through through the greatest game in the world.
Oh God, I should probably go back and bring up the 0-2 Dryden Ice Dogs when you guys win, because I know there will be a few guys who played on that team that are listening, and that was the video I saw the entire time I was there, because we didn't end up winning it. We did get to a Dudley Hewitt, but the team that came before us, you came in partway through that season, correct? Yeah,
I was just telling Danielle that they phoned, like Daryl called me, I think on January the 28th, and I was still in Flin Flon, and actually it was the funny story is I was substitute teaching.
You were a substitute teacher?
at the public school, and I was a phys ed teacher, because I don't know what happened to the phys ed teacher, too much stress or something. So I went in there, and I was their teacher. So I thought that was the greatest thing on earth, because Dan Reagan was the superintendent of the school division, and they didn't have anybody to take over. So why not Larry? Like, really, like, you know, as a coach, he knows his, you know, so I loved it. And the best part about it is my kids were still there, right? So Devin was still, I want to say Devin was in grade 1 maybe at that particular time. But I remember all his friends, they clinged on my leg, and, you know, they just loved me to death. It was funny, like, oh, Larry's, oh my God. And then Veronica's class, and then of course Walker's class was there, and all the boys, we just played football and hockey, and it was kind of a gong show, but we just had fun, and we just, you know, the kids, when they finished phys ed, they were just leaking, sweating. So, true story. And that, again, it tells you something, that they trusted me to do something like that, and I really enjoyed it, and I became, you know, when you coach, sometimes people don't know you until you live in that community, and I've never ever ran away from something that, you know, I've been fired. I've been fired 5 times, but 4 times from Junior A, and for one reason or the other. But I always stuck around the community. I always, you know, was part of the community. I never ran away, and, you know, I wasn't going to hide or scared. Like, you know, I needed to fend for my family, so had to get a job. You know, I had to find a job, and so I drove the shit truck. True story. Out in Flin Flon, the guy gave me an opportunity to work there, and then I worked at the school division, and I also worked at the rink. They gave me a job at the rink, so I also worked at the rink driving the Zamboni, and then that's when Dryden called me there in February. Actually, it was January 28th. Daryl called me, and then February 1st I went out there, and I didn't know what the hell I was getting into, but I came in there, and we ended up winning the first game, or maybe we lost the first game, and then we ended up winning 14 in a row after that. It was unbelievable. It was an unbelievable run. We ran through the playoffs. We didn't lose. We won four straight, and went to the Dudley Hewitt Cup. And we won the Bill Salonen Cup at that particular time, it was called. And he was a fine gentleman in Dryden that the cup was named after. And it was... I remember the game-winning goal. It was unbelievable. We beat Fort Francis, and it was, oh man, it was bedlam in that rink. I still have the video for it, and it was, you know, Mike Ebling did the broadcasting, and tremendous job, and he still does it. Does a great job out there.
Yeah,
you know,
does.
He's unbelievable, and he's a good man. And yeah, so that was another good story that we created, and we went to Dudley Hewitt and lost to Rayside Belfour, who had a lot of OHL guys overage.
Yeah.
I think at that particular time you could have 10, well, I think it was unlimited 20-year-olds, and I want to say they had 16 or 17 20-year-olds in their team.
Holy crap.
But if you can remember going to Dryden, like, the budget was very limited. Like, we would tape our socks with electrical tape, or we did whatever it took. We didn't care. Like, we were, you know, I made sure that the guys knew that they were worth something, but we're underdogs, and it's good to be an underdog and to go into that type of game without
I tell the
no
young
pressure.
guys, I remember it's maybe one of the few places that I had not unlimited sticks I could break, because that isn't exactly true, but it was wood sticks, so you had to do something to break your stick, right? So it was pretty much unlimited sticks. But by the midpoint of the season, all the good curves that everybody wanted had been taken. So all that you were left with were them frigging Crosby curves that nobody wanted, except for Odd Bill or something, right? And he's like, oh yeah, I can put it over the glass. It's like, makes no sense. So we'd have to take the heat gun, stick it under the door, and try and make something out of that thing. And young guys don't even understand that anymore.
Yeah.
And there'd be Larry sitting there at his little desk. What do you need? I need a stick, Larry. Oh yeah, what'd you do with your last one? I broke it. I didn't see you break it. You sure you broke it? And it was like you were under question, lock and key, and there was 100 wood sticks just sitting there, and you had to make sure. And then Larry give you one. Okay, don't break that. We got like 4 more months to play here. We need that stick to last. Okay, Larry. Yep, we'll make her last.
Yeah, I mean, it was a shoestring budget, but we had some really good people in that community that
There's still really good people.
Yeah,
in
you know
community.
what I mean. That would throw money in just because.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that, you know, the Zacharies did a lot of legwork there for us, and you know, is this one of those things again that if you treat people right and if you work hard,
yeah,
they see that and they'll help you out, and they helped us out a lot. And I know Spinner did a lot for us, you know, throughout that year, and you know, getting us stuff, and it was unbelievable. Like we were kind of shysters, but we had, and I think, you know, it's true. Like, you're coming from the SJ, you got all the connections anyway, so you might as well utilize them all and try to get the best. But our dressing room, as you can, you know, a lot of people, you know, a lot of kids would never go to Dryden just because of a dressing room, but it's not all because of that, right? It's the guys that you get, and when I can go down a list of names, but geez, we had some character kids there that worked hard. We had 10 Saskatchewan kids, a couple of Alberta kids. Remember that kid Chevy?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, with Chonger from BC, and Cowboy, and from Calgary. I think it was right from Calgary. We got him, but just do your homework, and a lot of those kids were, weren't wanted in another area, and then
well, that's what we all kind of called ourselves. We were
Yeah.
pretty much the misfits.
yeah.
Well, for sure the second year, but even in the first year, right? We were a bunch of guys that had got kicked around from every league and wound up and were Larry's misfits, and we put together. Well, our first year, I think we were 23-23 somewhere around there. Lost first round. It was the second year that we made the Dudley Hewitt, and we had a heck of a year that year. We were really good. I mean, it ended up being Fort William North Stars, Thunder Bay. They were. I just remember we were playing the North Stars in a game. I think it was before Christmas, and we were a tough team. That was Fort William was a tough team. We were a tough team, and we sent out. We had a line brawl, and it was a shift after that. We had another 3 guys go at it, and you're leaning over the bench looking at Howie, going, "Keep sending them. We got guys that want to go. Keep sending them, right?" And Howie, maybe the only time I saw Howie kind of look a little like, I don't know if I got any more guys to go, because we had 8 tough, we had a tough team that year. Some guys that could really chuck the knucks, and there were some good, and there were heavyweight fights at that time. Man, those are good days. I'm hoping Dryden will do another alumni game here at some point, because getting back there and just visiting those people and being back in the town, and I never had the opportunity to win there, but spent 3 years of my life there. There's a lot there, and it was a lot of fun and a lot of good memories. Yeah,
well, when you, especially your billets, they take you in as your own, their own son, and that's where you grow as a person and as a young man. And we've always said that, like, we're gonna take your boy, and we're gonna make him a man. So usually 3 years, it does make a difference for sure in your life. And these stories are great. Like, who would ever think you'd have a podcast here and you'd even have me on here? You know what I mean? It's something special, and that you when I remember when we thought you were available, so we made some calls, and he said, yeah, you take a chance on, and we need a guy that can, on the back end. And he's a little smaller guy, but he's feisty, and he works hard, and he's a good Sask kid. So of course, with the roots that I've, that Sask kids are good, hard-working kids, that we took a chance on you, and we met you at the old Husky there, and got you set up and had a little bite to eat, and then the rest is history, really, because like, you've made some good friends throughout the course of time, and you've kept in touch with them. And I don't even remember how, I can honestly say some of the players that I got, I don't remember how I made the trades or whatever, how that worked, but even Roycey and those other kids that we picked up was...
Yeah, we had AJ Royce out of Connecticut. I can't remember how, like, he told me, I remember, like, I can remember sitting there and him telling me, but now I can't remember how it came that he came there, but he came from Somerset, Connecticut, I believe. Yeah. Right?
But I had some connections in Saskatoon, and that was my old scout, and we got some kids out of that area, and then ended up Ronnie Rumble gave me a call. I talked to him one day, and he goes, he had a defenseman, or local kid, Dale Logo, and we picked him up. And so again, there were some good kids there that never really got a chance to play there, and they found a home in Dryden, and I think that's important. And we created our own memories, and we created a pretty good hockey team there that not too many teams wanted to tangle with us. I was looking at the penalty minutes earlier. They're like, I think Breer had like 380. We had Luke Levesque.
I forgot about Breer.
Yeah, we had Luke Levesque and Lucky Luke, and and Liam Walker, actually, and
Liam Walker,
Tesher, and Mac, like, out of Flin Flon, right?
Yeah, Ryan McKinnon.
Ryan McKinnon was a good guy, and so there was some good. Riel Assier, remember him?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Riel was a foot soldier for us, and
Quinn McIntosh.
Quinn McIntosh.
You converted to
Scotty
a defenseman.
Scotty Klein, Quinn McIntosh. Yeah, because he's a right-handed guy, smooth, smart, go at the puck.
I remember he was nervous to come back with me because he was my defense partner. You put him back with me, and he, for the first little bit there, he was nervous, and I just kept laughing at him. He could skate so well, right? Like, when you can skate like that, all you got to do is keep your head up, move the puck, and you're fine. Yeah,
no, he was like everybody had a role. I'm not sure about the only other guy I remember Dustin Hildebrand. Where did he? Where was
I actually don't know where Hildy went.
Yeah, so he was another guy that I remember. And of course Chevy, he was a beauty. Didn't he stayed at Shaggy's place? Didn't he?
I can't remember. That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
I just remember.
The local boys were good. We had some good local boys, and it was pretty good. Like we had. B-Mac and... We traded and somehow got Zachary back in net. Yeah.
And Zach was... I always say, if he was in shape and wanted it, he was one of the best goalies, if not the best goalie I ever played with. He'd show glove. He'd leave this, to the best scorers in our league. He'd leave this big, I could score there. And then he'd just throw out the mitt, on clockwork. It was so fast. Boom. Yeah. And then he'd just wave it in front of him, right? Nothing fazed him.
He was a feisty guy. He had some showmanship too.
Yes, he did. Yeah,
he had some showmanship. But again, you reel those guys in, and you get them to understand, you're not here. That's not the reason why you're here. You're here to be a good teammate. And I think he understood that. He matured as a player and as a person, and. All those kids will remember that. It's just part of who you are, and you start to mature as a player and become a good team, and that's a characteristic that you're looking for. So.
Okay, well, we just hit an hour and a half, so I got a couple of. Yeah, I know you're doing so well though. I thought I'd ask you a couple quick fire ones because you've coached now. What did we say? 25 years?
Something like that.
And you've been around the game for a little longer than that. So, what era did you enjoy the music in the dressing room the best?
Probably the 90s.
The Metallica, the AC/DC.
Yeah.
Not the techno stuff that's going on
right now. It's I cringe at times. I how are you getting fired up for that? It's just mundane, and it's just the same beat, and it's I don't mind some dance music or whatever. I'm because I run the gym, you have a different everybody's different, right? So different eras. The 6 o'clock class likes old rock. The 7 o'clock crew likes, a little more hip hop. The other crew likes country. So you get used to all the music all the time. But some of the stuff that you listen to now, some of the guys in the room, I purposely kind of go in there sometimes. If I'm going to go take a leak or something, I'll just click it off or turn it down. Hey, what's going on? And so we have some guys that are like old souls, so they'll throw the AC/DC back on and some good Metallica or Rolling Stones or whatever, even some of the stuff that you talk about, and they go, who, what are you talking about? And then as soon as they hear it, they go, oh, that's pretty cool, that's good, I like that. So yeah, probably the 90s.
Okay. Best fans you ever had? I'm a fan guy. I've always said that I would rather live in the cold but have crazy fans than be in San Jose and get to walk in the dressing room in my shorts.
Well, I'd have to say Flin Flon, Thunder Bay, Cuckoos.
Yeah.
And then when we had our run here in 2008, man, we had a good crowd here. It was good. A lot of fun. And the difference here was they had this, because we're the Klippers, they had the air, they had this plane. Every time we score a goal, this dust cropper or this, would come down like a B-52 bomber, not a jet, but a bomber, right?
Yeah.
Just, and then everybody would just kind of stand up and then do an airplane, with their hands out in the air, and they would tilt, back and forth, and it was amazing. And it was good. It was packed. We had some good runs, and even after the rink, the other rink burnt down there, and then we went to Eston. Our fan base, it was sold out there, and we were in the finals there too against Yorkton, and So there were some really good times and really good fans here in Kindersley, and they're starting to come back, I want to say. And they had it was called the Peanut Gallery. Couldn't beat it. And as a visiting team, it was fun to come to Kindersley because they had that peanut gallery. You knew something was going to happen. You knew it. There was a fishing line with a chicken coming out on the ice, and then you're trying to hit it, or they've got it up above the ice, and you're trying to whack it with your stick, and they'd be teasing you and pulling it back. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like, and that's the character. That's the difference nowadays. Where a lot of people just sit on their hands. We still have, like, they've got they still throw the moose leg on the ice, and we throw they still have the octopus coming on the ice.
That was going to be my next question. What's the craziest thing you've seen thrown on the ice? I just went through a Sask-Elta final here in senior. Hillmont played St. Walburg, and it only happened right at the end. Anytime Walburg scored, they threw a fish of some sort on the ice, and I guess it goes back to the old days. And so word of that got around Hillmont, so Hillmont started throwing out a frozen muskrat. And so there was the ref didn't want to pick it up. This muskrat kept flying out on the ice every time we scored. And
that's awesome. Yeah. So it's squid or octopus here, and the crew, like the referees, kind of look at each other, or the linesmen, and
they don't want to touch it.
Well, the youngest guy's got to go. I'm not touching it. You touch it. But sometimes you throw it on at the right time too, right? Because you need a timeout or something. So they're smart, because you can't throw pennies out there anymore.
Kevin McCallum told me a story about the pennies.
Yeah, that was.
Do you care to share some insight on the old penny?
Well, I did it all. You learn from other people, right? There was always money come flying out all the time, and that created like you needed a timeout or something. So there'd be always pennies or nickels or something flying.
Kevin McCallum tells me the story. He says that you told you got to have pennies on you at all times.
Oh yeah.
Because if we run out of timeouts, and I need a timeout, you're gonna throw pennies on the ice, and I'm gonna turn around and yell at the fan and scold them, right? So then they got to come and pick up the pennies. And while they're picking up the pennies, we can have a quick little huddle and catch everybody's breath.
Exactly.
But Kevin says the only time he ever did it, he whipped him at a guy in the Fort William in the gardens of Thunder Bay and hit this big 6'7" lineman right in the back, and he just walked over and said, "Larry, I'll pick up the pennies. Stop yelling at the fans. It's okay."
Well, he's got a good memory because I don't remember that, but that's probably a true story.
He also tells one of you call a timeout when you're about to pull the goalie, and you always had to have a broken goalie stick on the bench.
Yep.
You care to share that one?
Well, I always thought the philosophy was you could take that goalie stick, and you give the goalie the broken stick, and then when you pull them out, you just leave it. You just kind of drop it because it's a broken stick, right? But the goalies can play with a broken stick, as you know now, like they can, right?
Yep.
But we used to, if you wanted a timeout or something like that, they just give them a broken stick. But a lot of times we get, like we even tried with Zach to lay the stick right in the crease and then leave the net, like just drop your stick and then come to the bench. So they got caught one of that, and that those are rules that you always can. That have been changed because of guys like us that can manipulate that, and until they change it, well, hey, you're not trying if you're not cheating.
What era of player would you want to coach? Because now you're coaching the millennials, I believe they're called. Was there a group of kids? Because, you've seen it all the way since they wouldn't have been born in the 90s, but you were coaching in the 90s all the way through the 2000s, now into the... Is there a group? Well, the game... I always hear, and the reason I should preface it, I always hear now from coaches that the kids these days are tough to coach. And I don't know, hey, I haven't been through 20 years of coaching. Is there a difference? Did you enjoy coaching 15 years way more because of different things, or are the kids all the same?
Well, you have to change. I think that's the biggest part of it. You need to change. Like kids are different. Absolutely, they're different. How they're raised is everything's different, and it's more. I don't know if it's an entitlement or not. That's what everybody says it is. I have no problem coaching these guys here today. Like I like this group too, just as much as I like the other group, but because you're not able to do things, and it's like I've told you before, the game is so micromanaged. It's sad, and that's why you got a lot of fans that don't like the game anymore, because it's just too micromanaged. Every rule, everything, you can't do this, you can't do that. Like there's more. It's like, and I get it. You can't call the the ethnics and all that stuff. That you got to respect that now, and before that didn't happen. So whether or not you call a guy chief, well, that's that hurts somebody's feelings. But when I played and when I coached, that didn't really mean that was their nickname. They didn't think nothing of it. That was part of who they are. So somebody down the road didn't like that and can't call your player chief because he's he's an Aboriginal from L'Orange. Well, we always did that. Like that's part of who we are. And nobody complained about that. It's changed in that direction. So you got to really watch what you do on the ice, and you can't you're not supposed to swear, and so that part bothers me. The player wise, I still think I can get the best out of every player the same way. It's different motivation now, different tactics, right, to use. And it's all about, you never give up, right? I don't know. There's no other way of saying it. You just got to keep pushing through it. You got to persevere, and you just got to battle. But the kids that we coached, like in your era and like when Chonger and those guys, that was fun. That was a lot of fun because you could, you could settle the score. The battles were battles. Nobody there, it separated the men from the boys pretty well. And a lot of these young guys that don't have any nuts, will dive. The diving really bothers me. The embellishment, and referees buy into it. And that's not the way. To me, that's not the way the game should be played. And we talked about Ted Lindsay. You've seen the picture in the room there. Like that was my dad's favorite player. And I told this at the banquet is that was my dad's favorite player. And he always told me, he said, like one thing Ted Lindsay always said is, he never cheats the game. Yeah. Never cheated the game. And my dad always told me, it's like, that's what I want you to be like that. So, I always remember that. And so guys like that never cheated the game and played hard and was an honest player, and you could live with that. But for the guys that are diving it, how do you live with yourself like that? I don't understand that, and the faking the injury, and that bothers me. And I would, in all honesty, I'd probably call a guy out today for that, because I don't think that's right. I think that the game has got a lot of integrity, and if you're going to disrespect that integrity of the game, it's like your name, right? Like another life lesson is never embarrass the family name. And if that's not your name. You got to earn that name. You got to earn that name. Your grandfather, your father, and the previous men that have established your family name is important. So those things I think are good values to teach kids nowadays, that when you start diving around, that's your name that you're that's not, we don't do that in Kindersley here. And all the players know that. I'm not into that stuff, and most guys know it, and if they do it, I might pull them aside and whisper at them, or maybe 10 years ago I would have just blurted it out in the room. But now you do it the right way, and the way that it's important. But that's wrong, in my opinion. So the kids that have played for me understand that, and I've had a lot of good players that come through. I have some players that didn't like me, but I don't think they ever understand that. I always cared about all the players. I loved all my players. I might have been a hard ass on a lot of them, and I might have said some things that hurt their feelings, but it wasn't a personal attack. Yeah. It was to try to get them better, and that was so I've learned a lot in that aspect of it, and I think I've become a better coach. And that's why I think I'm still involved in the game because of that. Because otherwise, if I didn't, then you're not gonna survive in this era, right? So those players are have to be shown respect to. And when they are that, and when you show them something, they'll respond by giving them 100%. And that's what you want of a player. You want their best. Mediocrity, not good enough here.
Well, it has been a real treat to have you on. The thing is, I wrote down probably like 15 stories, and I got to apologize to half the guys that gave them to me because I would have loved to have shared them all. But there's just so much. I think what I would like to do is I just probably like to have you on again because it's been a real treat for me to come here down in Kindersley tonight and sit across from you and do this once. It's been a real honor, and just getting to sit and chat again and see you again, Larry. It's been a real joy of mine, and I think what I'll have to do is just line you up again here in the future and try and get into some of the stories of punctuality and dressing the proper way. There's some funny stories there that just teaching young kids what the right way to present yourself and be on time and accountability and all that goes in there. But we could probably be here for another 3 hours going down that road, and I think it'd be maybe just healthy to do that at a different time. And I just really appreciate you coming on and taking the time to sit here with me. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, no, I appreciate everything. And like I said, I think that you've got a good thing going here, Shaun, and you're a proud man. You got a great little family there, and you're gonna have success because you know how to work. And I think it's a tribute to your mom and dad. And I also, like I said, to all the players that I coach, whoever's listening to, like I said, like some of the things that a lot of fun things that we did together was for one reason, and that was to try to make you better and try to win. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. I believe we had some really good character kids. I think some kids that needed some direction, that I hope that I helped them turn that corner and get them on the right track. And even if it's just those little things like making your bed, tying your shoelaces up, and
well, the little things add up. Well, we always do.
Exactly. So thank you very much for having me, and I'd love
absolutely.
I'd love to come back on and we'll go at her.
Awesome. Thanks, Larry.
Good night.
Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that as much as I did. Next week I have Gord Redden on. He was born and raised in Hillmont, Saskatchewan, played his junior hockey with the Weyburn Red Wings. During the 1970s, he would spend time in both Port Huron, Michigan of the IHL and Fort Worth, Texas of the CHL, all of which were part of the Detroit Red Wings minor league system. Obviously, he eventually came back to Hillmont and won a Sask Alta title as well. So if you enjoyed this week, tune in next week, all right? Talk to you then.